Morning, Toe. See you, buddy. Scanner's pretty dead. Let's see if there's anything I can put on. Predator Butcher shit from last night. Good pop off last night. Pins and codes still left.
Words are just messed up. I don't want to do it.
He would be alive 2 hours late. He would be alive a little after 6 when they found him. So an hour and a half later. Could he have been saved at that time? At 4:38, Karen calls John. She's obviously waking up and realizing he didn't come home. At 4:40, she calls her parents. At 4:42, she calls her parents. At 4:45, Kaylee, John's niece inside the house, has testified that Karen woke her up with screaming that something has happened to John.
Is someone?
She was going crazy, screaming in the hallway, screaming in the house. At 5 o'clock, she calls Jen and says her taillight was broken, and she also calls Kerry Roberts and says John's dead. What changed in that time period? It seems to me that Karen woke up a little bit more sober, still drunk, but was piecing things together, walked into the garage and saw the damage, the extensive damage to the back of her SUV.
Oh, Jesus.
And she freaked out. But at that time, John would still be alive under that snow for another hour and a half. Had she called 911, they could have gone to the scene and found him an hour and a half earlier. None of us would be here together, possibly, if that happened. He might have been saved. She didn't do that. She chose not to do that. Is this actually Kate that I'm bringing in, or is this,
How did you know?
I didn't know if it was Steve Cope.
No, I'm Karen's #1 fan today, you know.
And I know Jen will be here soon. I think I saw her text me. So, do you have any? I don't think I've talked to you since yesterday. Did you have any thoughts on yesterday's testimony?
I think it was a really mixed bag. It makes me, I feel very unsettled with the fact, and I have for a long time, but I think it was just kind of punctuated by yesterday, that the DOJ, FBI retained experts from ARCA that they, I would assume purposefully, selectively, only gave cherry-picked information from the defense. You know, like, what is the motivation there? I've said this for a while, but I think it's fair saying again. If they were truly investigating the investigation, they would be working with the entire breadth of the information, right? Not just little bits and pieces. So what were they really trying to do? I do think, on the other hand, though, Ali was able to get them to admit that the state's theory with the injuries and was a possibility, right? Ali was able to get them to admit that they did not have all of the information. I thought it was a little bit disingenuous when he rattles off a bunch of information not given to, I think it was Dr. Wolf, and then asks him, well, would that change your opinion? He goes, absolutely not. Of course it would.
Right,
of course
right.
it would.
And I don't think they had the vehicle data, did they?
No.
So you're testing this thing based on assumptions about speed it would certainly be a lot more helpful if you actually had the actual speed of Karen's SUV, which you would have from the data, but they weren't interested in that.
Well, they're making an air cannon to shoot drinking glasses at you know, not even her taillight. Right? Like, they didn't inspect the vehicle. They didn't even inspect her vehicle. Right? They're opining on damage based on whatever photographs they were given.
Right. They knew they're not going to bite the hand of the master that's feeding. And that's been the problem with this whole case here. For whatever reason, it could even just be once Josh Levy was duped, now he was forced to go down that road, otherwise he'd look bad. So, you know. But again, it comes down to integrity. And I would say that this shows clearly that Josh Levy doesn't have it. And these guys weren't going to bite the hand of the master that was feeding them. Oh, Jen is here too. Good morning, Jen.
Good morning, Kate. What is that hideous picture you have up?
I don't want to be mean, but it's one of my more favorite Karen Reed supporters in one of their Karen Reed outfits. You know, always my interest has been I mean, obviously I've been very focused on the case, but sort of outside of that, the cultural zeitgeist that it's created. So I do, I mean, I think it's kind of shocking too. All of a sudden we've got 200 people showing up to the courthouse again. What for? You know, I'd be interested to see what the aftermath of this is as we move into deliberations and then a verdict. I think, unfortunately, no matter what the verdict is, it doesn't really solve the problem that's been created on social media. You've got one of two options here. Either she's found guilty, which I believe is the correct one, you know, criminally responsible for John's death, and then the witnesses and anyone who supported them, we've all put an innocent woman in jail, according to the mob. Or if she's found not guilty, then they are vindicated in their erroneous beliefs, and then we're all, you know, people protecting the real killers. So I think either way, it's just unfortunately not the resolution. As far as the social media machine, I'm not much of a prayer usually, but I did pray last night, just, you know, for the family, because I believe that the deliberation process is probably going to be agonizing for them, and I think that a not guilty verdict would be as well.
Taz, thank you very much for the contribution. And I don't know what cases I'm doing next, but I hope that I get to be involved with some of my favorite people, Kate and Jen here. I hope they keep me in the loop and we can find something we can work on together. But thank you.
I have a backlog right now of potential content, Kevin, that I've been putting off. A literal backlog.
We all need a vacation and something to do, but for a while we need a little. At least I need some time off from this stuff, or at least a few days. So the mob is very confident outside the courthouse right now. They're pretty much already celebrating. So what's going to happen if they don't get the verdict they want? I don't know.
Well, what makes them think they're going to get it today?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anybody in here?
I don't know.
This lady that just came out with the pink hat.
You would hope so.
In this white car right here.
You know, yesterday there was some.
She's bombed. And she
well,
bought three tall boy 4 Locos.
A lot of deliberation, and you'll get conflicting information.
Yeah.
Some analysts believe
Hotel
that
X-ray Foxtrot 5552.
Verdict, and that the longer the deliberations draw on, the more likely you are to get an acquittal. Other people will say the inverse. I don't think that you can really.
Well, I hope she don't kill anybody on the way home.
Or project that, you know, because you're not in that room with those jurors.
I'm just saying, from a
I didn't even know they still sold 4 Locos.
the quicker the verdict, typically.
I thought they took them off the market for some reason.
You know, as somebody who sat in on many of these, we knew when it came back early it was going to be in our favor, no matter how complicated the crime is. Whenever they drag on, that tends to lean toward hung juries and defense. But in this case, it's such a unique case where there were really 2 cases almost presented.
I hope not to.
You know, Judge Cannoni gave them so much leeway, as even she said. although it appears she's not going to do a jury instruction regarding third-party culprit, which is good for the prosecution.
Well, they didn't even get the vote instruction.
Is that what you understood too?
Yeah, they didn't even get the vote instruction.
Oh, they're breaking up just a bit.
Oh no.
How do you guys, so I want to talk about how you feel about something like a jury. So for me, though, if this hung jury, I'm assuming there'll be another trial. I have no intention of straightening it. I've seen all this evidence now once. I don't want to see it again. But from a perspective of justice, I think a hung jury would give the state the chance to make a better case. To explain things more clearly.
Unfortunately,
let's let the
at
state
detriment of the family.
keep
who has to
prosecuting
go
somebody.
through a whole other trial, which I'm sure they would still prefer to watching their loved one's murderer walk out. So, you know, who knows? I mean, a hung jury would be good for Karen because it would give her another 8 weeks of freedom at least, right? I hope that is not the case just for the
I mean,
family.
what I mean is I'd much rather a hung jury than an acquittal. And I think a hung jury can give the state a chance to get its act together a little bit better. Not that the state, everything they did was bad, but the investigation aspects of it were very good.
What?
Or at least really effective enough. And there were times that Lowy could be very good too, but there were a lot of missed opportunities in the way to explain to this jury what happened. Also, I want to ask you guys, so if you agree with this, I'm finally starting to see my crazy animations. Finally, maybe starting to get a sense of what happened, but it is different than a little bit different than what Trooper Paul explained. So let me see, I want to know what you guys think about this. I think maybe
These guys believe Karen did it, huh?
this idea that John had his arm out like this, that doesn't make sense. Because indeed, that would send him kind of pirouetting. And I think what happened was he's got his arm out, bent, and the collision pushed the arm into his chest, into his rib cage. So the arm protected the rib cage to some degree from injury, so you don't see that kind of bruising there. And the rib cage pushing the blow on the arm a little bit too. So that effect would, because the taillight is still in contact with the arm as it hits the rib cage,
Would have broke his arm.
Push him back onto the lawn.
That's a
Does that
dog
make
bite.
sense to you
It's
guys?
so obvious. If you've seen pictures of it.
I did see that. I think it was Murder by Maestro had done a crash, like I must have used one of those crash programs, but there was an animation that's been going around Twitter, and it looks like his arm is bent conventionally, like you would consider somebody holding a cocktail glass kind of bent to the body, and he's hit, sideswiped and kind of tumbles to his final resting place. And I think that's pretty realistic. Obviously, I mean, it would appear to me that he was using.
So you're going to send somebody away for murder for something that might have possibly happened.
So I would assume that the physics
What up, Claiborne?
are correct in that. And
It's supposed to be
I think that's probably the best.
beyond a
answer.
reasonable
You
doubt.
know,
And there's
we really
lots
know
of
probably
reasonable
not even
doubt there.
Karen. She was drunk in a giant.
Even if she did it,
going
I don't think they have the evidence to
So,
convict her.
Some of these things are just never resolved. I think that there's a lot of, most criminals.
A lot of reasonable doubt.
Entirely cut and dry. They're not supposed to be. That's why you don't get that, right?
Come on, Kate, say it.
So I don't think that you're always going to have
Asshole.
a perfect view of what happened, and you just have to kind of follow the evidence. And I think here the actual evidence is overwhelming that Karen is responsible for John's death. From my vantage point, if I was on the jury, the only question that really remains to deliberate is the question of intent.
I think that.
Question of intent. Manslaughter doesn't require intent.
Right.
I guess that's what you're saying, is they deliberate whether it would be second-degree murder or manslaughter.
That's what I would. That's what I would be on the jury. I don't. There's no evidence that points to anyone or anything else being actually responsible for events that led to John's death. Right? I mean, they have her. The phone data, I think, is probably the most damning piece of evidence against her, because you know that around 12:24, Trooper Paul,
Trooper Paul.
Defense.
Oh, for the defense, I'm sorry. So I was just actually saying this before you got on, Jen. My concerns with it, really, my concerns with the federal government with this. I don't understand why these people were retained to do reconstructions with selective, cherry-picked information that was provided only by the defendant. I would think that if you were investigating the investigation, you would want to look at the entire breadth of the evidence, right? Exculpatory, inculpatory, everything that everyone has, and piece it back together from that. And they were not given critical pieces of information. And I think on cross, it really came out more how inconclusive the testing was. Because, they were asked point blank, well...
They were asked questions. One of them's...
The vehicle, pushing him
did the forensic autopsy report.
Yes, right? So
his job is not to pick the scene. His body, his job is to pick what he thinks happened to this body.
So I still don't understand why the DOJ, FBI did that.
Well, I did.
DOJ, FBI.
This is the exact point I made, because that isn't how any expert operates. You operate by saying, first and foremost, I need everything in the file. Everything. And sometimes they'll push back because it's a lot, thousands of pages. And of course that means a lot of money on it because you're paid on an hourly rate to look over everything. But the point is, all of it can be relevant from, just every piece of information, every deposition.
Expert can only decide on the evidence that he's given.
Autopsy, all of everything. How can you make a judgment if you don't have the DNA regarding?
Oh, there was DNA on his girlfriend's. His DNA's on his girlfriend's vehicle. Surprise, surprise. But it wasn't blood.
Crash investigator.
Even though they say that
don't have the information about the pieces of the
all those cuts came from that broken taillight, but there's not a drop of blood on them.
The taillight.
Not a drop of blood on them.
Know those pieces of information and many more. Well, I know that said, oh, well, that wouldn't change my conclusion. That was embarrassing because he's so credible, and for him to just discount that and not even to consider that, that's just unbelievable to me.
I agree, and I mean, I guess, and so the Dr. Marie Russell made a little bit more sense to me because she had already she had her mind in the game.
I like Kate's spunkiness, but she doesn't make sense a lot of times. But then again, she goes after cop watchers all the time too.
And you think she really downplayed her interest in the case, and I believe that she probably saw it somewhere a little bit more nefarious.
Bao has a pretty decent adversarial relationship with her.
When she was confronted with the lack of dog DNA, her answer was comical. Well, yeah, there were clothes in between though, and then Lally straight back with, well, the swabs came from the clothes, right? But she wasn't going to let that deter her. These crash reconstruction experts from ARCA were retained, we know anyway, even if the jury doesn't, by the federal government.
Yeah, because they're investigating that police department and that prosecutor's office.
I understand why Dr. Marie Russell wouldn't want all the information. She was retained directly by the defense, and she had obviously a bias. But experts retained by the federal government, why do they have what looks like a bias? I don't know.
It's not a bias. They're just explaining the evidence they see.
I've said this many times. It doesn't make sense as a public corruption investigation that you're going to hire crash reconstructionists. They have no role in proving the crime or elements of the crime. No role.
What do you mean they have no role?
Nothing. So it was just going way far.
That is their role, is to recreate it.
In other words, looking at the actions of the officers, looking for collusion, looking for
lots of it. Lots of proof of that.
Them being involved in some sort of cover-up. That's
lots of proof of it.
Because that's the statute that we can use to indict someone on public corruption offenses. We would not have a murder statute that would be relevant. So why would they have done this in the first place? It's way beyond their purview.
This young man I have on the screen here, I'm not going to mention their names. This is one of his sons. He is exactly 6'2", and see the Lexus vehicle there? It matches up perfectly with the taillight, and the hand matches up perfectly with the bump back there. I just think that if this stuff would have been shown more clearly to the jury, it was game over. And there was an enormous amount placed deep onto the plate of that amount. So I'm not trying to be critical. It's almost unbelievable how much information was having passed over each one of these witnesses, medical information, vehicle information, 227 surge, and all this other stuff. But it does still bother me that there was not a clear enough case presented to this jury, even the time and stuff. So it's absolutely critical. And I think hopefully it's going to have a chance to get this through today in the closing arguments. But for instance, John's phone last
I wasn't going to go live, but I want to watch these closing arguments.
that was not made clear to the jury. What we had was that the GPS didn't change its position after 12:25. But that just means he was within that 15-foot radius. It doesn't mean he didn't move at all or get out of a vehicle or anything like that at that time. So it correlates so well with the vehicle data, which shows that 8 minutes after the 3-point turn was a collision, and that would have been at exactly 12:31, 12:32. And I just hope that he can make that clear in the closing argument. It wasn't made clear during the trial.
I do hope he ties together the data, and then, you know, one thing that he started.
He can't.
I'm sure
He can't bring up in closing
arguments, 'cause he hit it in
arguments that weren't brought into evidence, though.
All of the injuries sustained
That's stupid.
to John O'Keefe were on the right side of his body.
If it wasn't stated during the trial, he can't bring it up during closing.
The same hand that was holding the cocktail glass.
State
everything
can.
lines up. And as we can see from this picture, right, yeah, it would have been exactly at that arm shoulder level. And exactly, he had that cut to the back of his knee, right where the light on the bottom would be.
Yeah, I think those are critical points to make. He needs to stick.
You've seen the wounds. They are dog.
You know, you never
I've
want
seen
to
many dog
armchair
bites.
quarterback these guys. It was a
Yeah, I know.
heavy
Well,
but in my opinion,
He's going to be free.
issue
That's the hope.
prosecution.
He came to an agreement.
It was a
He went ahead and pled guilty to one charge,
one-man band type of case.
and he's supposed to take a sentence of 5 years, although he's been held for 5 years. So
Cross somebody else to assist
the hope is that they
direct
keep up their end of the deal and release him.
somebody, to
But yeah, it looks like he's probably free, finally,
somebody who knew these
for
guys
exposing
inside and out,
government bullshit,
sitting at his
corruption.
side, pointing out different things. That's the role of a case agent or a lead detective, and they're allowed to be in the
Proving-
courtroom throughout, unless Massachusetts has a
And how
law
dare you show
that
evidence that the government
rule does not apply to your lead agent.
is
I
doing
know
things they
couldn't
swear they're
offer
not.
there, but they certainly could have put
Yeah.
someone
I
else,
posted about it on X last night.
mechanic or
For some reason,
or his
my
supervisor
post didn't
to
stay up.
over-
Literally just disappeared.
help.
So I was tired, so I said, fuck it.
That, I think, will be
Yeah,
if
right.
you're looking back and doing
Right.
A reevaluation.
I definitely want to use a
good and bad
remote car starter for the rest of his life.
issue with the whole thing. It caused much to be missed.
Sorry, Ashley, said I think Ashley's theory and other people have had this too, is the idea that the glass was throwing the taillight, and this is the army guys set up an experiment with that too. The problem with that theory, you guys can agree with this, obviously, is that the base of the glass was found with John's body. So to me,
Exactly. Yeah.
what that says is that it was in his hand, and once the force hit John, that glass, he would have the exact same angular momentum as John's body. So
What happened? Well, you just switched over to law and crime.
even if you let go I don't want to use flight as much as to say in flight, that glass would still follow him, and that's why it was found in that area that was no snow, because John's body kept it clear. So I think that's, if I understand right. You guys agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. I think that
Definitely.
I think
It his heart caused the injury to, or the damage.
These
to
morons
his
on the
arm.
on this
That's
stream
why
are
he had
actually
those abrasions on his arm.
trying to be expert
Although-
reconstructionists.
Unfortunately, the medical examiner did a very
Kate never wants to believe that the
sandwich
state
job
would
of
actually
saying anything, in my opinion.
ever do things
Well, I mean,
against the people,
the thing about-
conspire against the
Yeah,
people.
I think there's but just the medical examiner, in her defense, she doesn't give a legal determination. She makes a medical determination. So she wasn't there. She can draw on what she knows of the circumstances. But I mean, when she's asked questions medically, could it be this? Could it be? I mean, I think she was being honest, and we don't usually see pedestrian injuries like this.
Oh, there's
Usually,
somebody was speeding up on the right, thinking they were going to whip around all of
and
us.
generally, it is the roof of the car that they're hitting, the hood of the car, right? So you're hitting it from the front head on, your body goes over the hood, your head usually hits the windshield. That's usually a pedestrian strike. I mean, I think that was another interesting part when it came up with the accident reconstructionist. They didn't even know that she was going in reverse. Like, I mean, so I think that
Well, they knew.
the medical examiner did exactly what she was supposed to do. And the thing is that they can't rule everything out. You know, would it be consistent with this? That injuries are weird. I mean, it could be consistent with different things. I think she did
like a
get
dog
out.
bite.
She didn't see any signs of a major altercation. She explained the bruising on the hands as IVs. I think that the lack of bruising. What do you do when you bump your knee and you want to stop it from bruising and swelling? What do you do?
I know, obviously, ice and cold stop the proliferation of the blood, which would result in bruising, but I saw bruises in the photos. I don't know if no one else did. Certainly the ones I posted, they all had bruising in that upper arm area, but I totally agree that the contusion and the blood flow.
And if he was dead,
with the freezing,
there's no way he bruised.
But they didn't really talk about that,
From the IVs.
which I think is a problem.
You don't bruise
I think it's
unless you're alive.
expert at something that you
Even
don't
dying.
have any experience with. In other words,
Yeah, blame that on the IVs.
had, at least that they talked about, a pedestrian strike going backwards at 24 miles per hour. You know, this was a
lot more damage.
unusual case.
24 miles an hour is actually pretty. This is
sorry,
24 miles an hour.
yes, the
I
witness
hit
was
you.
Sitting with the O'Keefe family today, so I believe it's Colin out. I knew Colin Albert was going.
I hit
Jen,
you.
Carrie, I guess Brian is there too, and I'm glad that they're there. You know, so
That's
that
pretty
they can
fast.
Not only support the O'Keefe family, but they can support themselves, and I hope the jury notices that. You know, the people that have been so maligned and so smeared are still very close with the victim's family, because the victim's family knows what happened. You know.
Well, they don't. They know what they've been told by the state.
I know Jen's there. I don't know if Allie was going or not. Honestly, you know, the McCabe girls, I don't know how much more they can handle. And that's, I guess, the most tragic part of this is that, you know, no matter what happens with the verdict, I don't know. It's not really over for them, unfortunately. It's only over for them when the mob and their cult leader decide that they're going to disengage. And I don't know when that's going to happen.
Cult
You know,
leader.
the
Oh,
only
she
way
hates
that
Turtle
will
Boy so
happen
much.
is when they engage
I
in
don't agree with
something
most
else.
of
And
what
I think
Turtle
what we're
Boy
gonna
says,
see, of
but
course, is a shift to.
sorry, I agree with him on this case.
So that will be the new interest and the new focus.
Where they're all
Actually, I'm not sorry.
So, unfortunately.
What you mean? I see what you mean. Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. That's.
I still
that's
think
true.
they'll convict her.
This is the nature of witch hunts. It really doesn't. There is no easy solution because it's a kind of madness that takes over the public, and people have to become better at critical thinking and wake up on their own. There's no legal way to protect people from the law, really, or it's very limited in what the law can do. So it's up to people waking up. So I had Nick Rocco last night on Court TV insisting that all the McGalberts are about to be arrested any day soon by this conspiracy, despite the fact that not a single piece of evidence came out during the trial, and the feds didn't find a single piece. You just can't see when something becomes a belief system.
Just because it didn't come out doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Well,
They're
last
not
idiot.
gonna be arrested. It's absolutely.
Somebody's trying to pass
absurd.
me on the left here. On this road,
not
of all places.
understand that the defense would have been salivating if there was indications of any conspiracy, and they would have had that come out in court, and they would have named that to the
Yeah, they
judge
wouldn't.
in the motion
Prosecution
hearing.
wouldn't allow it. They were able to
The
object
biggest
without
thing
saying
about
why
all
they were
that
objecting.
Was,
And she sustained almost every one of them.
statements to his high school friends. That's the worst thing that came out of that, because I don't know if Trooper Proctor will be able to keep his job because of Giglio, at least the exact job as detective that he has. I mean, I really
'cause
don't. because of Giglio issues in the future. So,
But I just want to point out with all with that said, and I mean, they made a promise to that jury in opening statements. My client was framed, wait for us, we're going to prove it. They never proved it. And, you know, we have concrete evidence that they never proved it because the judge did not even allow
They don't have to prove innocence.
They did not even meet the threshold for voting. Okay, so there's no third party culprit. That's out. They were trying to rely on sort of an in with third party.
All they have to do is cast reasonable doubt, and they more than did that.
Threshold for voting. It's dead. It's over. There is no conspiracy.
well, we'll see what they end up saying in closing. I'm concerned because we know no matter what they're told, they often sneak stuff in and say things anyway.
Yep. Yeah,
person that could confuse.
the girl that works with me in the office is going to be later, so I have to be here earlier today.
He makes a
I'll go live on the main channel because I want to watch this
entitled to do it and ethically bound to do it.
closing arguments.
He comes
So
out
I'll see you guys in a bit.
or an hour
Love ya.
after
Peace.
the